Jack Spade back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And today, you can tell I'm in a different location, and I had to come up with some items that I needed for this project. And I've talked about this before in some of my videos, but one of the items I needed was a piece of granite um, to do my stamping on, and I went to the nearby granite countertops place here and asked them if they had a sink cutout or scrap that I could have or buy. And the guy went in the back. He was gone for a while, and then he came back, and he actually even ground the sharp edge off of it. He cleaned it up, and he handed it to me and said, "Merry Christmas." So those granite countertop people can be very friendly to you if you need a piece just to do your stamping on. Nice, hard, smooth surface. And, they just handed it to me. And that's the second time that's happened to me. The one I have at home is the same way. Asked if they had any scrap that I could buy. Told them what I was using it for leather work. And they said, go out to their excess granite dumpster and said, help yourself. I said, how much do I owe you? And they said, nothing. So keep that in mind. You can get a nice piece like this one. This guy, I couldn't believe he even ground it down for me. It was awesome. So today we're going to start a new project, and I want to do a quick little project with some stamping veg tan leather. It's probably 8 or 9 ounce, and it's just going to be a simple desktop pen holder. I get tired of always going and digging in drawers for ink pens or pencils or things that I need on my workbench to draw with, even scribes or something like that. This will work for. So I needed something simple. Why not make it out of leather? So that's what I'm going to do today. So come on in and let's get started. All right. So I also found me a new self-healing cutting mat, and I've got me a new ruler here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of leather, and I want to make me a rectangle out of it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to square an edge off of this using my grid, and it looks like it is not perfectly straight, so I will have to square it up here. I'll flip my blade around so I know I have a good, clean, sharp blade. And that is not a new blade, I can tell you that right now, just by the feel of it. So I'm going to leave that in there because I'm going to use that for something else here in a minute that's going to come in handy. So let's get those pieces out of the way. And then I want to square this up, But let's see, let's use a 4-inch, well, yeah, let's use a 4-inch wide base on this so that it's a little more stable. I'm afraid if I get it too narrow and you get too many heavy things, pins, scribes, whatever you're placing in there, I'm afraid that it will want to fall over. So we don't want that. Sorry about the lighting, the sun coming through the window. They even have shades up. But let's go ahead and square the ends up on this. And then, once I get this squared up, I'll figure out what my top piece needs to be. This is going to be the base. And I do want to round these corners off just to make it look a little nicer. So I've got me a can of soup here that I'm going to use just to mark those corners. And that'll give it a little smoother look rather than having all those hard edges. And I could go ahead and bevel that and everything. I don't even have a beveler with me. So let's go ahead and round this corner off here. I'll go to the second one. And I'm not trying to cut through, because I'm not trying to cut through all at once in the first pass, because this blade is not brand spanking new and it's not razor sharp. But again, like I said, I'm going to use it for something else here in a minute, and I don't want it to be. I guess I could go ahead and put a new blade in there and then use this one, put it back in, but it's good enough to cut what I want to cut right now, but it's going to be perfect for what I want to use it for in a few minutes when I get to the second piece, the piece that actually holds the pins. It's wanting to scoot on me. Alright, so I'm to the fourth corner. Again, it's going through about half of the depth the first time. And then you clean up any of it that you need to. All right, so there's my base, and that ended up being 4 inches by 7.5 inches. You could make that any size you want. I am going to do a little bit of decorative stamping around that. I'm going to get a little bit of water on this cloth. And this is one of those microfiber towels, what they call a throwaway, I guess, but it comes on a roll, like almost like paper towels, but it's a microfiber towel. And I bought a roll of them thinking, well, this is going to be, I'm going to waste my money on this deal. And I was super surprised. They work great, no lint, and when you're done, you just throw them away. So I really like them. And they hold the water nice. So I'm casing that with a little bit of water, and then I'm going to move my new granite piece I got. I still can't get over the fact that this guy actually ground that off for me, so I didn't have a sharp edge on it. That was awesome. I'll move that up here where it's a little more stable. And I've got a veining stamp tool, 2 different types here, and all I'm going to do is go around the edge and lightly, just staying off of the edge, and this is some nice tooling leather. I'm not hitting this hardly at all, and it's putting a nice stamp into it. Like I said, I'm just staying off of the edge. And I'm wanting to get that as even as possible. I usually use a plastic mallet, but I do not have that with me at this point, so I've got this new one that I bought a while back. I haven't used much at all, so I did bring it with me. All right, so there's the first one. You see around the top edge. And then for the second one, I think I'm just going to go touch the other two and go right between two of the veining stamps. Oh yeah, that turned out nice. And let's see what that looks like. This is a very unique stamp. I got this in some stamps I bought at a sale. I bought a bunch of them together, and I haven't used this one yet. And I like it a lot. It's sharp. I'll show it to you. It's really unique. Once you get going, you can move pretty quickly on these stamps. But remember, once it's in there, it's in there. It's not going to come out. So yeah, I like this a lot. See if you can see that. There you go. It's a real nice, unique stamp. Made it look real good. All right, so before I get ready to cut the other one, I'm going to figure out, I've never done this before, so I want to try to figure out, I don't want to cover up my stamping, my decorative stamping, with my other piece of leather. So I don't want to go any further than where my stamp stops. So that's about 3 inches. Now, here's the thing. I have to allow for this to bow up so I can put my holes in the top of it to hold my pens or pencils or whatever it is I'm going to do. So I'm going to need 3 inches, and I'm going to have to kind of guesstimate this as to, because it's going to look something like that. So I just held my finger here, and it looks like about 6 inches is what I'm going to have or need there. So let's move this piece of granite out of the way, and let's cut a piece let's cut a piece 6.5 inches. Again, on these self-healing mats that have the 1-inch grid on them, they are so convenient. Alright, so there's my 6.5 inch piece. Move that out of the way. Double check that. 6.5 inches exactly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the length. Again, I don't want that covering up my decorative stamping, so that's 6.5. So I need a square 6.5 by 6.5. So I'll cut it at 6.5 the other direction also. That'll make me a nice square. And then how I'm going to connect this to my base is I'm going to use rivets. So one thing I'm going to have to do is, like I was talking about earlier about not changing my blade, that it would work perfect, is that I want to mark this at a 1/2 inch on the back side on both ends. That's where I will attach it to the base. Then I'll take my knife. I won't press very hard. Basically, more than anything, I'm just scoring that. Maybe cutting through the very top layer of that. And I can try it like I just did and then see if I need to go through any more. What I'll do is I'll go in just a hair and do it again. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And then I'm going to come back through my first cut, meet my second cut, and that'll give that out of there. You can see it coming out. I can come back the other way too, and I'm just cutting toward the other side. I'm not cutting down to cut through the leather. You can see that took a little bit of that leather out of there so that it'll fold very easily. Now it'll fold up and lay flat. I'll do the other side the same way, and that's what's going to get that to lay nice and flat on that base. So let's go ahead and do the other side the same way. And again, I'm not pressing down, I'm scoring that, just letting it go through the top layer of that leather, and then moving over approximately a 1/16 of an inch, very, very little. Doing the same thing, and then come back and cut at an angle toward that second, put it in the first line, and cut at an angle toward the second that you just cut. So you're cutting out that excess 1/16 of an inch. And you can see I peel that right out. So if you don't have the tool for that, I use a dull knife blade so I don't accidentally cut through it, and that cuts that out. So it makes it real easy to fold. Now what I want to do is double check. And all I have to do now, that's going to be great, is round my corners off just like I did on this one. So let me grab my can again. And I want that to match. So somewhat symmetrical on the shapes and the curves. Don't have any French curves or anything with me, so I'm using a soup can, as I mentioned before. And that's okay, that'll keep it consistent from piece to piece. And then we'll look and see if I want to do any stamping on this piece or just leave it blank. We'll be able to tell that here in just a second since we cut this circle, cut these rounded corners off. This is pretty nice leather to work with. Like I said, it's about 8 ounce, I would say. So not too thick, not too thin. You gotta have something stable enough to withhold the, of it standing up like that. You don't want it leaning over or falling over. So let's see what that looks like with those rounded. Looks great. And then what that does, that's going to end up giving us about 2 3/4 of an inch high for our pins or stylus, whatever it is we're going to set in there. Now that's the next thing, is what are we going to do about the holes? And the holes need to be centered. So I am going to center this piece, the top piece, and then I'm going to put my straight edge on here. And remember, this is 6.5 inches. We can go ahead and put a mark every inch. Should have started from the center and go from the center out. Six and a half, that would have been, yeah, 3 1/4. And then we could go inch from center. And that's going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes to put our pins or stylus or whatever it is we're going to hold on those or put in there. So there's my marks for my holes. Now what I got to do is figure out how I'm going to get those holes punched, and I think I'm going to do a little stamp straight across the front of this, or the top of it. So let's go ahead and case the whole thing so that we keep it consistent with moisture content. And let's grab the granite piece again. And I think I'm going to go with that new piece. And let's just go ahead and make a mark all the way down the center of that. And that's where, and all I did was drag the tip of my knife down. And that's where we'll make that stamp. All it's going to do is just give it a little character. Okay, and you could do whatever you'd like, or nothing at all, whatever. So I'm going to double check these marks one more time so I know where I'm putting my holes. And then that's the next thing. I have to figure out how am I getting those holes in there. I'm going to look at my punches that I have. I don't have my normal punches with me that I have on my workbench all the time. So I'm going to have to figure out something here. Let me grab those. And what I've done is I've got some sets that I bought. I'm looking at the largest holes here. That one's definitely the largest. And it has a screw-in tip. There's several of them there. And take that pin, and that is not going to be big enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end of this, which feels pretty sharp, where you screw the tip in, and I'm going to mark each one of those. And those look like those would be plenty big enough for the pin. So let's look and see. I don't think this was sharp enough to go through that, but I'm going to try it. We're going to see. I put a piece underneath there. No, that's not made to cut. So what I'm going to do is let's find the largest one. We'll put that on and let's see how that cuts around that edge. Well, it cuts pretty nice. So let's see if I can. This is the first time I've ever used these new punches, so oh yeah. So let's just go around that mark and see if I can get a round hole out of this new punch, and I think I can. Might be a little more crude than if I just had a single punch, but it looks pretty good, and it gives it a little chamfer on the hole for the pin to go into. So let's move around this second one, and let's see if I can get any better at my second try at it. Be nicer if we had one that was that big, but I don't. So yeah, that does okay. These holes definitely, that makes it have a slight bevel to it, but if you look at it, that's how those are made, with a bevel on it. So let's see. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Fits nice and snug in there. And that rubber grip makes it nice and tight to come out of there. So they're not going to fall out, for sure. So we can come up through the bottom and round that off a little bit, clean that hole up with that punch. That's exactly what I did right there. That makes the holes pretty nice. For using what I have to work with. So I'm going to have to work my way around. Definitely don't want to hit that directly on that granite. That's why I have that scrap piece of leather behind there. And I use this sheen a lot, whether I put it on dyed leather or natural leather, and I just love it. It helps protect it and condition the leather, but it just does such a nice job. And then once you put that on there and it dries for a minute or two, I always take a dry microfiber, and then that's when I give it a quick little light buff, and that's what gives it that little shine or sheen. That's where the sheen comes from. So it gives it kind of a finished look, even though it's natural color, hasn't been dyed. And I like that. I like that color. I'm going to do a holster that color at some point. So let me double check on my tool for rivets. I normally use a rivet setter that I use with my mallet, my hammer. Looks like all my caps are in the bottom of the bag. So let's dig through here a little bit, see if I can find me some caps. Let's see how this is going to work. We'll start out on this one side. We'll go up through the bottom. Put a cap on. See if we can get that. There we go. And then let's see what we get here. Like I said, I've never used these. I've had them for a long time. And it looks like it did a pretty nice job. I tell you what, I'm thinking I can put a piece of scrap leather underneath that, and as I squeeze on that from both sides, I can hit on that tool. I think that's gonna seal that pretty good. So that might work out okay. I'm gonna try a second one here. First one turned out fine. Let's try a second one. Yeah. So that's going to work out all right. I kind of like my hand setter with the anvil and everything, but that's okay. This is definitely going to work in a pinch. Makes them all look the same. Makes them look nice. actually like that because they all look identical using that tool, and kind of puts a little crown on them. Kind of looks like a saddle. So there's one side all the way down. Now this side may be a little more tricky. Remember, we can fold it up because we cut that groove on each side, but it's still going to want to fight us a little bit because of this bow. So this does kind of end up looking like a saddle when you're done, especially with the hardware on it. So it's pretty sharp. I'm going to call it a pin saddle or something. Maybe I just come up with a new name for it. I have no idea. But it definitely looks like a saddle with that natural color and that silver hardware on there. So let's see if we can get this one to get set on there, and it feels like it's going to. No problem. The only problem that I would have with this is you're not going to be able to put rivets deep into anything, very far off of the edge anyway, or your tool's not going to reach. That'd be the problem. So we're down here to the last couple of rivets. And it's going as well as possibly could have under the circumstances, since I'm having to use makeshift tools because I'm not at my normal workbench, but it's working pretty good. And again, I really like the way the silver accents that natural colored leather. And there's the other side. Finished. So there's both sides. My little pin saddle. I can drop my pins in there, or my stamps, or I guess you could put your punches in there, whatever you'd like. There's another stamp. You could put stylus, whatever you wanted to in there. And it's very, I was worried about it being how stable it was going to be. It's very stable. Very. It's not going to fall over, even if you bump it or, hit your arm, accidentally hit it. It's not going to go tipping over or falling over. I like it. Turned out great. So it'll hold 5 tools or 5 pins or vice, pins and tools, whatever you want to put in there. Very nice. I'm happy with it. All right. So another project in the books, as you can see, turned out really nice. There it is from the end. And you could also put some foam or something down here on the inside if you wanted to make sure those always stood up straight. Be it whatever you want, personal preference. But I think it turned out really good. So quick little project with some pop rivets or rivets and two small pieces of leather, just a little stamping, and got something I can use on my workbench now that's useful, or on a desk, wherever. I think I'm going to actually put this on our desk in the house. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And please hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Appreciate you getting me to that 2,000 subscriber mark. You guys have been great. I appreciate so much you watching these videos. I hope you all have a great 2025. And as I always say, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.